It's another beautiful Sunday afternoon. This is Rubbing Minds. Welcome. My name is Ebuka Obiuchendu. What a week we have had around the country. I think the nation is still reeling from the exclusive interview here on Channels Television by the FCT Minister, Nyesom Wike, which has, sent a lot of talking points across the political scene, from Rivers State to his former senior, I guess, Rotimi Amechi, and members of the newly formed coalition, the ADC. A lot was said in that interview, and it came off, of course, the coalition which was announced a couple of days ago by what many have termed probably the strangest combination of bedfellows to come into politics in Nigeria. But I guess it sets the tone for what's to come in 2027. Nigeria typically has very early election seasons, but I feel like this one in particular is earlier than usual. Almost all of 2025, all we've talked about is politics, and 2027 and the general elections. People are starting to wonder, is there any governance happening at all? But I guess that's why we're here. We're going to be talking about the road to 2027, the ADC coalition, and of course reactions to the FCT minister's interview and all the reactions that have come from the presidency and all of that. I'm joined here by Justice Ojeno and Wale Oshunde. Thanks a lot for being here.
It's my pleasure.
I don't know where we want to start from because so much has happened. But let's start with the ADC because there's been rumors and whispers about what was to come, but then it was officially announced. People are like, okay, ADC, APC, a little too similar, but we'll move on from that. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, former governors Peter Obi, Rotimi Amechi, El Rufai, John Oyegun, these are all stalwarts, I guess, in their quarters. Mekai Hedioha, former Minister of Justice, Malami, so many people who you would not have seen in the same room before, raising hands, clapping, and saying, yes, this is the new force. How new is this?
I think it's shockingly new, in that it is almost impossible, just like you led to imagine all of them in the same room. But it is also not new because we've had events like this before in the annals of our country. Of course, the APC, the ruling party, is a very, very strong example that strange bedfellows can come together, coalesce, and stay for long. Their stay has exceeded a decade now as we speak. But again, we also have other examples that have since fallen apart. We had one strange example in 2019 where more than 40 political parties came together for the purpose of wresting power from the incumbent at the time, but they fell flatly on their face. But it is now our hope and prayer that maybe this present ADC coalition will succeed like the APC and not fail like the CUPP that we had in 2019. That's
the question a lot of people have now. They say thunder does not strike in the same place twice, right? The APC has done this and it worked for them. So they know how it works, and they are probably better placed to make sure this doesn't work. I mean, there's been a lot of these accusations with regards to the president, sort of making sure that certain things with the opposition doesn't work. There's conversations about how he uses the minister to make sure PDP is not working. Labour Party has a million factions, and then this has now happened. First of all, why didn't they do this in 2022, 2023, which was what a lot of Nigerians said at the time? And then secondly, how do you play the same game with somebody who's played the game already?
So thanks for having me, Buka. I think, I mean, these are politicians, right? And we must acknowledge the fact that the primary reason for being a politician is to wrestle power, or to be powerful. And so they are all doing this simply because of one reason. They want to wrestle power from the current president and become, people in government. So I have no doubt that the simple reason why all of them are congregating at that juncture today is to simply wrestle power from the president. Now, as to why they did not do this in 2022, I think it's simple. Look, Atiku Abubakar wants to be president in this country, and he wants to do it within his own means and according to his own playbook. Peter Obi wants to be president in this country. He wants to do it according to his own wish and his own playbook. And so they don't want anybody to dictate to them. You'd also see Kwankwanso. There were a number of people who wanted to...
Amechi has also said he would do just one term.
Yeah, you see? So a lot of people, they have this interest. Politics is really about interest, it's about power, And so initially, they probably thought they could do it on their own accord and, using their own influence and their own character. But now they have seen that with the kind of president that you have today, look, it will be very difficult to wrestle power from the current president. And so you need to do something extra, something unusual, something above board. And that's exactly the reason I think they have thought about this idea of the merger. And for me, you can see that it's a conglomeration of people who are dissatisfied with the president. They were probably in bed, before now, but they probably fell apart for whatever reason. And now they are coming together to say, look, let's join forces, alliances, and then wrestle power from the president. It will be difficult.
Let's look at the individuals in particular, because what he's mentioned there now, a lot of Nigerians are wondering, how does this work? Is there an open primary? Is there a selected candidate? And if there's an open primary, how do we whittle down? Are they going to go through the zoning formula, which a lot of Nigerians seem to have in their heads? Okay, it's still the South Stern. We have a Peter Obi and an El Rufai who were arch enemies, at least to Nigerians politically, now sitting together. We know how instrumental a Malami was in Buhari's government while an Atiku was in opposition. So all of these fellows are now in the same room, and I would have to choose somebody. I mean, we don't know what the negotiations are before this was done. But do you foresee things being peaceful? Because with the APC, for example, at the time when President Buhari emerged the candidates, we all heard, okay, President Tinubu now at the time was the big factor in saying, this is the person we're all going to back. And it was, even if there were people who opposed, it was mostly unanimous. Yes. With this one, it's hard to see how that is achieved. Is there a figure you see who's like the leader of this party?
Okay, at the end of the day, if we put our permutations together, unfortunately, the figure might have to be Mr. Atiku Abubakar, because he seems to have the largest political capital. Of course, it's an emotive issue for a lot of people. They may want to feel that their own particular bearer or the persons they have serious sympathy for should be able to carry the day. But again, at the end of the day, we must always remind ourselves that politics is not a game of emotions. It's purely a game of numbers. No matter how educated you are, Ebuka, no matter how educated I am, no matter how educated the greatest professor on the face of this, on the land of this country is, that person is entitled to just one vote. The most uneducated, in a manner of speaking, is also entitled to one vote. So it has to now boil lastly back to who can galvanize the greatest number of people. And if we look at the numbers that were produced in the last election, it looks as though it is Atiku, even though a lot of people may disagree with that point, because they feel that a lot of shenanigans actually happened during the election. So, but with what, again, is on ground, if the northern elders and all, if they decide to throw their entire weight behind an Atiku, it appears as though it may be the one to be able to galvanize sufficient numbers to be able to give the ADC a stand in the farthest part of hell when it comes to probably taking on the stalwart, the present president.
Wale is shaking his head. You don't agree?
Well, I don't quite agree, to be honest. I mean, I love Justice's submission, but I think that, look, there is this rule that is probably not in the Constitution, but we've been following it. It's become a convention, a norm. And that's the fact that you spend 8 years in power. It moves from a region, you spend 8 years, then it goes to the next region. Now, Bola Tinubu is from the south. Buhari spent 8 years in government or in power. He left the place. Now, Tinubu is to spend 4 years. You see a cross-section of politicians and maybe voters from the south who would say, it's our turn, and the south should also spend 8 years. Then after that term is, completed by a southerner, then it goes to the north again for another 8 years. I think we've sort of aligned on that particular submission.
But some would argue that Goodluck Jonathan broke that rule when he refused to let the north complete Yar'Adua's term. So and then people now say, well, since then, things have been thrown in the air. Is that not a fair way to look at it?
That came up with consequences. Goodluck Jonathan would have won that election, but for the fact that there were political permutations
even the first term he won.
Yes.
He completed Yar'Adua's term, then won in 2009, I believe.
You wouldn't blame him.
Yeah.
That was not due to his own interest per se. I mean, and that's because Yar'Adua passed away. He would not have lost that ambition. I mean, but that's a topic for another day. But what I see today is the fact that, look, they would, I mean, politicians and maybe voters or political, influencers would want to see the South complete its own 8 years. And that's why I said I disagree with Justice that Alhaji Atiku Abubakar will probably be the best candidate at this time. Because, I mean, think about it. A Southern candidate to complete that 8-year cycle will probably be desirable. And my advice to the ADC is that if you really want to at least give the current president a big fight for his money and capacity, then present a Southern candidate. Because...
So the Southern candidate now does what, 4 years and leaves?
Absolutely.
What if
he has to sacrifice?
Why? But he has the right to run again. What then happens?
He does have a right to run again. But politically speaking, look, in politics, it's really not about your rights. If it is about people's rights, a lot of people will probably not be playing politics, one. And a lot of people would also not even bag opportunities in politics. But in politics, it's about concessions, it's about, meeting at certain junctures, it's about understanding the terrain and the nomenclature. And that was why, I mean, don't think that a politician like Obi does not know what he's saying when he said he would only run for 4 years. Don't think a politician like Amechi does not know what he's saying when he said it would be 1 term. They all know these nuances and nomenclatures, and they know that these are critical pointers to the fact that if you are to gain support from Southern politicians and, voters and what have you, it is only reasonable. And even from northern electorates, I mean, it is only reasonable that you promise them that you do just 1 term.
Do you see a world where an Atiku, who we all know is probably the most ambitious opposition leader today, says, okay, I'm going to support you guys. Do you see that happening realistically?
I see it happening. And because, look, he knows what he's...
I have to fully disagree.
Well, of course. I mean, but for me, I see that possibility. And that's because, look, like I told you, politics is really about concessions. Understanding the terrain, understanding what is on the ground today. If
playing the long game.
If a northern candidate is presented today, there will be a lot of uproar in the South, and even amongst some political elites in the North, to say that, no, let's be fair, let justice prevail, let the South have its turn for 8 years. And then it shifts to the North as well.
I want to switch up to the government now, because since this ADC situation has come up, we've heard a lot of reactions from members of the APC, members of the presidency, members of the government. A lot of people have come out to say things, and like I said at the start of the show, we saw the minister, Nyesom Wike, on Channel's Politics Today, and he's had a lot to say about members of this ADC now. But the claim is, we're not scared, we're not rattled. But they're talking a lot for people who are not rattled, right? I mean, this is obviously giving them some food for thought.
Absolutely, and of course we have to look at their body language and see what their reactions are before we are able to come to a conclusion as to whether the other party, they feel threatened by the other party or not. But I'm not really happy that you are not giving me the opportunity to
what do you want to respond?
You see, okay, I'm going to come back to this question, but with my learned brother here, we usually say that 2 lawyers, 3 opinions. So
when there's 3 lawyers, what happens?
It's Armageddon. So as much as possible, I share his sympathies, and I would, for the life of me, want the South to actually have the Southwest to actually, the South generally, to actually have its own completion of its term. Just like he rightly alluded to, the fact that it is not written in our constitution. So, but if we check the nitty-gritty of it, we must also remember that President Tinubu chose a Muslim ticket, and it wasn't something that was agreed to. But he put his cards on the table, and he came to a conclusion that if the essence of arriving at getting political power is being able to aggregate the numbers from all the corners possible, then this is the way for him to go, despite the fact that some form of equity or inequity was actually displayed, if we check our religious spread as a nation, by that sole decision. So sometimes politics is a game of, is a very, very difficult thing to do. You may have to a large extent, offend a lot of blocks in order to be able to arrive at what is viable. So I feel that what is viable is, I'm not holding brief for Mr. Atiku. Of course, I have no political affiliation, but I've actually sliced it and diced it and observed it under every form of the lights of the kaleidoscope. And my sole conclusion is that there should be some form of alliance between Atiku and Obi in order for...
I mean, the alliance has started for them to be in the same space in the first place.
Amen. Amen.
You know,
Amen.
And the dynamics are different now. At the last election, we had 3 major candidates.
Yes.
Now it's looking like we might have 2. I don't know what the PDP's game plan is.
I think the PDP is comatose. It's not a party.
I feel like the former Senate President, Bukola Saraki, is probably the only major factor left there. We don't know if he's still going to be there by the time the elections come up. He also definitely has an ambition that we all know of. He's run in the past. So we don't know what that means for him, or whether he's going to join the APC or the ADC or just remain in the PDP. But it looks like we have 2 major parties now that will be running. So the dynamics are different. And we have a president, whether we like it or not, who's politically savvy. Yeah. Even if he's not anything else, he's definitely politically savvy. Who do you think plays the mind games first? Because there's rumors about, oh, is he going to change his running mates? Is he going to keep his running mates? Does he do that before the ADC does their thing? Does the ADC play along with whatever Mr. President does, you know? And I feel like we're having these conversations too early. But we're having them already, and it makes you wonder what... who wins this chess game? And who do you think, besides, before even getting to the electorate, who do you think, looking at both parties, has an upper hand at the moment?
I'll tell you, the president clearly has, you know, an upper hand. It's simple. The current president is a sitting president. He's a master strategist. He's a massive politician. He's built alliances across, you know, the length and breadth of the country. You know, and above all, you know, I tell you, look, he has a lot of governors with him.
Yeah.
And I tell you one thing. Elections are won on the strength of numbers and tactics. Not emotions, not sentiments. Numbers and tactics. Tactics, give it to this man. He has it. Numbers, out of 36 states and the FCT that we have today, there are 23 states belonging to the APC. 10 to the PDP, I think 10, yes. NNPP 1, Kano. Labour Party 1, and that's all. Then ABGA in Professor Soludo in, what was it called? Anambra State. That's what we have right now. And I can guarantee you, I don't see any of those 23 governors leaving the APC. I don't. That's one.
More will even join if possible.
I'm coming there. So out of the 10 states belonging to the PDP, I can guarantee you that some of them are still going to join, you know, the APC ship. When? I don't know. Labour Party, well, might of course shift to ADC because Obi has gone to the ADC and, you know, he has a very strong alliance with Governor Oti. You know, so for me, I think that even with the current formula, 23, 10, 1, 1, 1.
But the APC did it in 2015.
Yes.
Against the tide.
What did they do?
They came into power against the tide, even if they were the opposition and minority at the time.
Did you see a cross-section of governors leaving their political parties to join them at the time?
Yeah.
So that's exactly what it is. Right now, you can see that... Okay, so let's go a bit deeper. Mr. Peter Obi won the election basically in the southeast and the south-south. All right? And now, the current president is already decimating the Obi capital in the south-south. You have Akwa Ibom joining APC. You have Delta State already joined the APC as well.
Reverse is pretty much.
Oh, well, but I don't see a reverse in the case of Delta and Akwa Ibom states.
Edo as well?
Edo as well. So, and I tell you, it's a very simple calculation. The Senate president is from Akwa Ibom State. He's a massive supporter of the president. Do you see a reverse in that case? So there are a lot of pointers to the fact that the president, who is a master tactician, you know, already has a direction is going and is already reading the minds of the opposition. I also don't doubt that a number of his loyalists are now in the ADC, and then they'll probably be feeding him with information, and then he's able to also disarm the coalition as well.
We've talked a lot about the politics of it, but I want to talk about the people. Because they are supposed to be the ones who decide these things, right? The INEC continues to come into question. Even the ADC has had a lot to say about the INEC. I think they wanted to register a different party. There were a lot of bottlenecks, which is why they ended up at the ADC. We saw what happened in the last elections with young people and where they sort of gravitated towards. How much will that matter this time? Because a lot of people are giving credit to the APC and Mr. President, duly so, for how he's handled things so far politically. The voters, how much of a factor will they play again, especially with the way the INEC is still what it is since 2023? Not much has changed with the organization or with legislation. Are we? I keep saying are we going to be a factor in all of this?
I will strongly pray and hope so. And the major reason why I'm saying that is because of course, there is an amendment proposal to amend the Electoral Act in the works. Of course, the present INEC chairman is supposed to leave the office by the end of this year. So I pray that if maybe a person very credible is put in that position, of course, I feel that people will not have this to your tent or Israel attitude that they are presently exercising when it comes to participation in elections in Nigeria. So to that end, I feel that a lot can change. So that is why some of us have been suggesting, if I have to drop names, and I feel that a lot of Nigerians will support me in this, a Mikey Guinea, there's no reason why he cannot be put in that position, because we must remember that electoral bodies, just like the judiciary, their capital for credibility is confidence that people have in the personalities that lead it and in the processes. Mr. Mikey Guinea has paid his dues in this regard. He has been willing to go against anybody and everybody in order to ensure that due process and justice is followed when it comes to organizing elections. So maybe if people like that are put in that process, then of course, and we encourage the coalition. See, it's very important for this coalition to work. It's very important for this coalition to work, because if it does not work, our democracy is going to the dogs.
That was the final question I wanted to ask you, because we're out of time. So, because whether you are the APC, as long as you're Nigerian and you love democracy, you want a healthy competition to exist. Multi-party even, not just two parties. Are you worried that if this coalition fails, this is it, we're in a one-party state?
I tell you one thing for free. Politicians are never thinking about the people. I'm a student of politics. I tell you, they're not thinking about the people, they are thinking about winning the elections, all right? And so to that extent, we the people would have to take the bull by the horn by ourselves. If you are waiting for any politician, whether in this country or in America or anywhere, to come and change the course of things, we are deceiving ourselves. So I'm going to say that we should take the bull by the horn. All of us, ordinary Nigerians, should congregate at that juncture where we tell politicians that, look, it is time for you to start thinking about the people. We're still talking politics. Look, we're not talking about manifestos. We're talking coalition. Can you imagine? This is exactly what politicians are doing to us. They give us a project that doesn't make sense. We'll be deliberating and discussing about that. And they are playing out their own game, their card. They are worried about the next, and they are all about the same thing. Look, I'm really disgusted a bit about, the fact that it is the same old faces that are forming alliances and coalitions in this country. I'm telling you. I think we need a leader like Obasanjo, if I'll be honest with you. Someone who really understands this country, who understands administration, and who would be at least technocratic in his thinking. For the first time when he was president, we heard about Okonjo Iweala, we heard about Akinwumi Adesina, we heard about Ezekwesili, we had all of these people who came from, wherever, outside, to help build a country. Not conventional politicians. Now, these are people who probably didn't get opportunities within the current government, who are trying to then come together to fight the president. That's what I see, all right? Except for a few people who are probably, genuine with their intentions here and there, but they are not even those critical people who want to contest the elections. That is exactly what I see. Disgruntled people here and there come together. Let's see what we can do to fight the president. And it is going to be very difficult. I wish them well. I wish all of them well. But Nigerians must know that we, the people, are the true intenders of
right.
democratic gains in this country.
Well, to be fair, you're not completely wrong. I've even lost track of who is where.
That's it.
Today you're in the APC, tomorrow it's like, oh, he's here. I mean, I don't know who's where anymore. There's no ideology. I guess the ideology is power.
True.
At the end of the day. Thanks a lot for joining us. It's still very early in the day, but we're going to be talking about this at least for another year and a half as things stand. Thanks for being here today. We're going to take a break and we'll be right back. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Now, for a number of years, we've been talking about content creation on this show, even at a time when people would wonder, why are you talking about this on serious people? But it's 2025, and I'm sure a lot of you now realize that we're talking about it for a reason, because the world is changing really, really fast. We're going to be talking content creators and influencers, building something from nothing. I'm joined here by the founder, Dots Media House of Trend Up Africa, Tiwalola Olanubi. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you, Doctor.
So, it's, even for someone like me who understood what was happening, I'm still sometimes shocked at how quickly things are changing. I think for a lot of people, the last elections in the US woke a lot of people up to see how much power podcasts and streamers had. Suddenly, mainstream media was a second choice for a lot of the presidential candidates in the US. And people say till tomorrow that Donald Trump won the election because of the podcasts he went on. And we have elections coming up, so I wonder what's going to happen with us. But before we get to that, it's just like the world is changing so quickly. And why is it happening so fast? Did COVID do something?
Okay, so I think that obviously there's always a phase, there's always an involvement that happens generally. At every point or every season, something changes. There was the era of the newspapers. Right, and people even thought that was going to disrupt what was before it. There was the era of TV, there was the era of radio, and eventually the era of the internet, right? And I think that we've just now moved into that phase of content creation. And I think the real leap happened from post-COVID, from 2020, because that was when also as an organization, Trend Up Africa, we really took in cognizance that rise in influencers and content creators from 2020. More people were interested in getting into that space. More people were interested in creating content. More people were resigning from their jobs to now focus on being a content creator fully. So I think it's just that new phase we're in now.
So the space is very democratized now, and you can be anything. Is the way it looks now. But the more people join in, the harder it looks to actually break through. But you find a lot of people today, I talk to a lot of young boys. What do you want to be? I want to be a streamer. That's what they tell you. You know, they see Kai Cenat or whoever it is,
Shan Comics,
or Shan Comics doing their thing, and that's what they want to do. So going from nothing to becoming this social media influencer on whatever level, for whatever segment it is, how does that happen and how does it start? Because I look at it now and I know a lot of people are trying so hard. You see people who have created content for 2 years, they're telling you, nobody's following me, nobody's seeing my content. How does that work then?
So I think that for anyone, and I will compare this to business or to every other industry or any other aspect of life generally. And I like this question a lot because this is the core of why we started Trend Up Africa, which is basically audacity. Right. When you look at the idea of content creation and the idea of what you said earlier about someone going from nothing to just from creating a content or creating several content, one goes viral or one picks up and they become a full star and they have a full moment, right? Is that audacity? Is what takes you from you just believing that you have everything at your disposal. You don't need an office. You don't need a level of funds. You don't need, you're basically in front of a camera and then you can actually access audiences across the world. So the word is audacity, is what pushes anyone, right, from zero where they are to being able to sit in front of the camera and push out the content that they need and towards the audience that they need to face.
A lot of people are wondering, okay, I see parents as well who wonder, how do I guide my child? Is there a school for this? Because I know you mentioned business. People who want to start a business, you can kind of go to business school. You be an apprentice or you learn from people. If you want to do a 9 to 5, you go to school, you go to work, you get paid. This seems like a random thing for a lot of people. And it's just like, how do I even get started on this thing? Do I just buy a phone and just start filming? Is that all it is?
So funny how this is the gap that we saw. This is in 2020, them. And when you look at the journey of content creation up till 2020, and even now, that challenge is still there, where there's no form of structure, there's no form of how do I do this? How do I go about this? That was the gap we saw in 2020, right? Where content creators basically just run into stardom, run into virality. It's not planned for most of them. They just basically start to do their thing. It just finds them. Nobody starts off, for content creators it's even a bit easier. For influencers, nobody starts off to just be an influencer. They basically start to do something they're interested in, and from there it picks up, right? And that was the gap we saw, where we're like, okay, people are now starting to be more interested in this content creation without any form of structure, right? And without structure, that's the biggest challenge that they have generally in trying to make more sense out of what they're doing. That was the gap we saw when we started Trend Up Africa. And we have gone ahead now to create like training sessions where every month we're able to train aspiring creators, people that want to become creators. Because now that we have that influx of creators, right, a number of these aspiring ones now, all they're asking is, how do I get into this? How am I able to kick off this journey? I have what it takes. Nobody's following me. Nobody's liking my content. How am I able to kick off this? So monthly now, we're able to train content creators, put them in front of people that are now forces, like Diary of a Kitchen Lover, Mr. Macaroni. All the leading influencers are able to speak to them and teach them the journey, or teach them from the experiences of what they have faced, right, and help them on their own journey to becoming creators. Yes.
How far away are we from a market saturation? And I ask this not because I don't think, I mean, everybody has an audience. Yeah. True. Some people are micro-influencers, some are macro-influencers. So there's room for everybody in some way. But at the same time, I mean, growing up, at least for those of us who are millennials, or at least of a certain age, you wanted information, you went somewhere to watch it. Now, everybody has a channel. At what point does it become, okay, I don't know where to look for information anymore because there's just too much of you?
Yes.
Is there a worry about saturation? Because people still want to be influencers. How do you get people encouraged to say, okay, you can still be an influencer while also knowing that the markets choke? Like we say in Nigeria.
I think it still goes back to the conversation we had earlier about evolution, right? You can't fight it.
Yes. It's inevitable.
Yeah, it's inevitable. We're at that age where the information is in front of you now. And one of the biggest things I've learned is that as soon as you can fight it, you start to find ways to work around it and to make sure that it's effective and not damaging, right, to you or to whatever you're doing. And so because of the age where we are at, the information is now, and when you really look at it, like, it makes things easier. You are now able to, when you look at the older times, people have to wait to be able to, people are not even able to give their own opinion. You just watch the TV. And then you're watching, and then you're not able to give opinions. But now, one of the things that this phase has done is give people more visibility, give people the opportunity to have a voice, right? And what that does is that you are able to get diverse information. But how you are not able to go about how you use the information you're getting, how you're able to separate bad news or negative news from good news is now left to you. But it's inevitable as a whole.
You mentioned Trend Up a few times there. I know you have an awards coming up.
Yes. Okay.
So how do you find, why did you start this, and how do you find people who are a part of this?
Okay. So in 2014, we kicked off a company called Dot Media, an advertising firm basically that helps global brands like Pepsi, HP, Intel with advertising. But one of our key services that we kicked off with was influencer marketing, right? And we were one of the forerunners for that. Basically, helping influencers to grow their numbers, helping influencers to understand how to go about influencer marketing and all that. And also connecting them to campaigns, right, with brands. Down the line, we realized how much work these guys were putting into their craft. So we created a subsidiary.
Very hard work.
Yeah, very hard work that people don't see or people don't really understand. You see a 1-minute content online and you don't know how much work they've put in, how much mental burnout they've had, how much financial burden they've had. Nobody was seeing that aspect of work that they put in. And when you look at footballers, you look at musicians, you look at movie stars, they all have a platform that supports them, that awards them, that basically stands as a backbone for them. But the content creators didn't have any of that. So in 2020, we decided to take that up based on the experience and the history of what we had done with them over the past, since 2014. So we kicked off the Trend Up Africa, which basically the main goal for Trend Up Africa is to be that platform that stands as a support system for the content creators and influencers. And it goes from funding. They could get funding for their crafts. They could get this training we've spoken about, a form of structure, a form of management, and most importantly, recognizing the work that they do, which is the Trend Up Awards. So we've done that now from 2021 to now. This year is the 5th edition, where we are honoring and spotlighting Nigerian creators first. That's where we started from. But last year, we were able to go Pan-African, right, where we now spotlight and celebrate content creators and influencers across Africa generally. It's always a diverse, it's always a level of processes, call for nominations from the general public, shortlisting that call for nominations into 6 people per category, where we have 17 categories. And basically, it's a no-voting award, where we have a 10-man jury to decide who is deserving to be the winner based on creativity, engagement, consistency, right? And we've done that for 4 years, basically. We continue to support these guys beyond the award. Just last week, we were able to organize a masterclass that was in collaboration with the Lagos State government, where we empowered 200+ aspiring creators, put them in front of creators like Beauty Tukura, The Husband Material, the Visual Advocate, where they are able to really learn skills and how to go about their journey. So these are like the activities that we're helping to push the creator economy across Africa generally. We continue to support them. In 2022, we gave out cash prizes to the winners, $1,000, to support their craft and their journey. Last year, we gave out a brand new car to one of the winners as well, to one of the biggest winner of the night. So Trend Up Africa has been created basically for creators across Africa to know that when you need support, all forms of support, Trend Up Africa will always be there to support you.
Awesome stuff, man. I mean, I have to commend you, especially for doing this at a time when nobody really took them seriously. And you decided to do that. You're probably the Oscars of influencers.
Yes,
or the Grammys of influencers. Or the Headies of influencers. When is this holding?
July 13th. It's always a series of activities leading up to it. But the main event is on Sunday, July 13th at the Balmoral Hall, Federal Palace Hotel. It's always a mix of brand professionals, marketing professionals, most importantly, influencers and content creators across Africa. We have creators that come from Kenya, Rwanda, South Africa, Ghana. Last year, it was a Ghanaian that won the first of international category called Endurance Grand, right? So we have 17 categories of that. So it's an event that is a mix of brand professionals and the influencers. And there's just a huge network that happens. And that's when we are able to also unveil the 17 winners of each of the awards.
So July 13th?
13th, Balmoral Hall.
Balmoral Hall.
And it's always shown live as well on DSTV and also on YouTube. So in case you are not able to get in, it's a invitation-based award. But if you're not able to get in, there's always a live streaming that happens. Yes.
All right, thank you very much. Looking forward to it. Anything special to look forward to this year's edition?
Yeah, just the winners. We're looking forward to.
It's been a very busy year for creators.
Year for creators, yes.
So definitely.
There's just a lot of surprises that will happen with that. It's been a tight race between all the nominees. As you can, like when you look at the categories, just a mix of competition between them and all. And we look forward to what the winners will be.
Looking forward to that, man. Good luck, and make sure you tune in for those of you who don't get an invite.
Thank you so much.
Catch the Trend Up Awards on July 13th and celebrates content creators who are, I don't even know if they're the future anymore, they're the present.
They're here now.
They're here to stay. Thanks a lot for joining us. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. Now let's talk politics. The Super Falcons are kicking off the Women's African Cup of Nations today, and I'm joined now by international sports journalist Omar Katuba. Omar, how are you doing?
Fine. Good to be on the
It's been a long time. You've abandoned us here. Before we get into that, I just want to touch on very quickly the Super Eagles, former Super Eagles goalkeeper Peter Rufai, who just passed away, I believe at 61 years old. Had about 65 caps for the Super Eagles, and he's probably the only, correct me if I'm wrong, the only goalkeeper who has a goal for Nigeria. Very sad death, isn't it?
Of course, Atudu Mayana left an indelible mark on the Nigerian football, game. The greatest goalkeeper Nigeria has ever produced. For those of us who grew up watching him, it was a sad one for football in Nigeria. Unfortunately, if we have to go into details of how he suffered, battled illness, and almost no one talked about him. Now he's dead. Everyone is paying tribute. But when he was alive, no one celebrated him. You want to always remember Patoranki's song, "Celebrate Me." Now they are alive. But that doesn't happen to our ex-internationals. It's unfortunate.
It's it's very unfortunate, and I mean, condolences go out to Peter Rufai's family, and it makes you wonder a lot about sports. And this is not to put them side by side, but I mean, we saw what happened with our sprinter, Favor Ofili, who has decided to switch allegiance. At least we hear that she has, from Nigeria, and people are now saying, "Oh, don't let her go," But she had. I mean, the sports ministry or the AFN had years to fix whatever the issues are. And now we're crying when medicine after death, isn't it?
As usual. Always reactive, not proactive. We never do the right things. Because from administration to administration, the story remains the same. The more things change, the more they remain the same. It's a very serious problem we have in our sports administration and of course beyond. And that's why you see our athletes will continue to defect. They will continue to switch allegiances. I've said it many times, no athlete should think of representing Nigeria if they have the opportunity to represent a more serious nation, because for footballers, they have a better situation. As a matter of fact, most of our footballers don't play for Nigeria because of any financial benefit, I beg your pardon. It's just for the love of the country. They actually are willing to fulfill their bonuses because they earn enough playing football in Europe. But for the athletes, for the boxer, for the runner, for the long jump athletes, that is not the case. The only career they have is representing their nation at major international athletics or sporting events. And if they are not well paid, they will be left to suffer after their careers. That's why when they get the slightest opportunity, they switch allegiances. And you will never blame them, because that is the only career that they have. Nigeria needs to start doing better. Otherwise, we'll continue to lose our best hands, or best legs, or best talent to many other nations around the world.
I mean, if you talk about footballers even earning money, it doesn't apply to a lot of female footballers. Some of them, yes, have good contracts now in Europe and in America, but there's a good number of them, even in those countries, don't particularly earn anything close to what the men are earning. And I saw a list put out, I think it was by Osasu Obayuwana, of arrears that are owed to a lot of these players, from Michel Alozie to Ifeoma Onumonu. So many of them, bonuses from months and years ago. And now they're about to play their first game today with this discussion still hanging in the air. And it makes you wonder, how do you go into a tournament? This is not a friendly. This is not a one-off qualifier. This is a full-on tournament that we hope Nigeria gets the crown back from South Africa, right? Where does the motivation for a tournament like this then come from?
Exactly. And just for context, the Super Falcons is the most successful national team in Africa, male or female.
Yep.
They've won more trophies than any other national team. And these girls are treated like outcasts. I remember when they won the AFCON in South Africa, they were ferried with a truck that is normally used to ferry farm produce. That is still happening up to today. I knew that these girls were being owed, but I didn't know it was this bad until I saw the tweet by Osasu Obayuwana, and I asked myself, what is wrong with us? What is wrong with our football? Since 2021, so basically, Amaju Pinnick passed the debt over to Shehu Buzo, who seems to, Madam Abdullahi Buzo or whatever, but who seems to have not even made any difference. We continue to owe these girls, and they continue to win for Nigeria. I'm talking about motivation. Again, you just mentioned some of the girls playing abroad and earning decent money, not compared to the guys. Now, the motivation is actually playing these games and hoping that they will be noticed by international clubs so they can go over and earn better money for their careers. Playing for Nigeria is like a thankless project because you get nothing from it. And of course, when you get injured, nobody cares. Only the administrators are well taken care of. You see them looking very well fed. They fly business class. They stay in 5-star hotels. But the girls who bring glory, who bring honor and pride to Nigeria are treated like nobody. It's unbelievable. I can't just comprehend this sort of behavior. And it's a reflection of who we are. It's a reflection of the quality of people running football in Nigeria. And the most unfortunate fact is that some of the guys in the media are friends to these people. So when they are supposed to speak the truth, they will not. Because if they do, they won't put them on the plane to travel for international games for free. And that already tells you of the rot in the entire football system in Nigeria. The media that is supposed to be is it on the fourth estate is compromised. It's a very sad truth.
You mentioned Ibrahim Guzo, the NFF chairman, I believe.
Ibrahim Guzo, thank you.
And a lot of people in the sports community were also excited when Shehu Diko was announced as the chairman of the National Sports Commission as well. I know FIFA rules, the sports government doesn't interfere with the NFF. But in a situation like this, where does the buck stop? I mean, what's supposed to happen now that all of these areas are there? And the girls are complaining, but they don't get the sort of traction that the men would if they complained. What happens now?
I think the buck stops on the table of Ibrahim Guzo. But of course, if they are cup in hand, why not go begging for support from the ministry or the sports commission? Shehu Diko basically grew up in the football system. Shehu Diko was one time vice president of the NFF. He's been in Nigerian football in different capacity. Now he's the sports commission chairman, and he said a lot about how they want to build a sports economy, about how they want to make sports an economic driver. But what seems to be happening is more talk, less action, more photo op, less results. Because as a matter of fact, for someone like Shehu Diko, who has been involved in football over the years, who knows the plight of the girls, I think that he should have intervened before a matter like this comes into the public sphere. Because actually, it is an embarrassment. If these guys can even sponsor some of their, side chicks for international tournaments, and they cannot pay the girls, it says a lot about how selfish, how sensitive, and how wicked they are. Because we're supposed to treat our girls with absolute respect.
Very true.
Girls who are working for us, bringing us joy, we treat them like this. Oh, it's sad.
I want us to quickly end about, the Nigerian game is going to start in about an hour, I believe, our first game in the tournament. I mean, the team looks pretty solid. We still have Chemakan Nadozie, who, as far as I'm concerned, is the best goalkeeper on the continent. Ashley Plumter, Michelle Alozie. Many people are wondering if this might be one of Asisat Oshoala's final tournaments for the Super Falcons. We don't know how much more she's going to be around for. How confident are you feeling? I mean, South Africa had a great tournament the last time, took the cup home. We won that cup back, in spite of all this drama, which they have done in the past. Do you see the motivation? Do you see the talents there?
I think they are motivated nonetheless. These girls, they play for themselves. They play for you and I, who love them. As a matter of fact, they don't play for the NFF officials because they and these guys are never friends. Because no one will be happy with you if they continue to work and you don't reward them. So now they are doing it for themselves, and the average Nigerian on the street who continues to applaud them. And Asisat Oshoala has been there for many years. She's seen everything, the best, in fact, the worst of the worst. And you can tell how she has continued to keep working out for Nigeria. And look at the result. She's achieved a lot from in terms of her club career. And that also is a benefit from our playing for Nigeria. And I think that's what she will tell the other girls, coming into the team. Don't play for Nigeria because you want to gain anything financially. Build your career and get opportunity to play abroad. You mentioned Nadozie Chiamaka, who just moved to Brighton in the Premier League. Fantastic move for her. Again, a result of her continuous dedication and hard work. To the Super Falcons, and of course, continuing to do well on the pitch. I think that Nigeria can still go all the way and retain this tournament. But our biggest albatross will be South Africa. And South Africa, again, is now becoming our biggest enemy, both male and female. And what do you see that? Why is that happening? Why is that happening? It's a reflection of the work they've put in behind the scenes for many years. It is now coming to fruition. They won the African Under-20 Championship. They might qualify for the FIFA World Cup ahead of Nigeria. Right now, they are never underdogs against Nigeria. So when you have talent, you don't have the organization, what you get is failure upon failure. But when you have organization and little talent, if you continue to work hard, the result will come. And that is what we're seeing with South Africa. That will be our biggest challenge. But I think that with Alozie, Aziza Goshoala, Nadozie Chiamaka, I think that we can get something out of this tournament. I believe so.
Well,
I believe in the girls. Always deliver, unlike the boys.
Yeah, I think that's what we're all hoping for. I mean, keeping our fingers crossed. Nigerians need a break from a lot of things happening. So if the girls can bring us those smiles, I think we'll all appreciate it and we'll wish them all the best. Thanks a lot, Omar Katuba, for joining us today. Hopefully you can come back. When we get the trophy, we'll invite you so we can all celebrate here with the girls.
I'm always available.
Thanks for joining us. And to the viewers, like I always say, you can follow the conversation on social media. Please use the hashtag #ReMinds when you send us a message and go support the Super Falcons. I'll see you next Sunday.